Hello, everyone. Let's have more news about the Warriors. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. With the question of Jonathan Kuminga's future with the Golden State, there has no doubt been rumors swirling about the young star, about the team that would be interested. As trade rumors surround Kuminga, the latest report from Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype has such teams as the Miami Heat and Chicago Bulls listed as potential suitors. Scotto would point out how, with the 22-year-old set to be a restricted free agent in the offseason, the uncertainty with Golden State is apparent. He mentioned how the question of fit since the Jimmy Butler trade, the up and down relationship with head coach Steve Kerr, and the trade talks could head for a collision course of a change of scenery. Seeking a bigger role with another team, Scotto reports that Miami and Chicago should be monitored as potential sign and trade candidates. Kuminga is looking for an expanded and consistent role moving forward, league sources told Hoops Hype, Scotto wrote. The Chicago Bulls and Miami Heat are two teams to monitor as potential sign and trade candidates for Kuminga, league sources told Hoops Hype. With that in mind, the Warriors have also not ruled out the possibility of retaining Kuminga, sources said. Clutchpoint's NBA insider Brett Siegel reported last month that the Bulls and Heat have preliminary interest in Kuminga. The Nets, along with the Chicago Bulls and Miami Heat, are three teams with preliminary interest in Kuminga ahead of free agency, sources said, Siegel wrote. Both Kuminga and the Warriors could come to an understanding on a new, fair contract, but the idea of exploring sign and trade opportunities seems like the best path for both parties. Now let's go to another video. Don't forget to leave a like.
As in Kawakami's kind of write-up of the interview where he sat down with Warriors owner Joe Lacob, one of the first things that he mentioned was what many Warriors fans were kind of upset by early on in the offseason when the Golden State Valkyries debuted for the first time in the WNBA. And who did Joe Lacob have sitting next to him during that game? That was Jonathan Kuminga. Now, when you're talking about, a first ever game for a WNBA franchise, if you're the owner of the brother NBA team, wouldn't you want to have somebody next to you who is going to be a part of the organization long term? That's what a lot of Warriors fans thought. And then Joe Lacob went and said to Kawakami that you shouldn't read too much into it. Now, I don't know how much I believe that. I think there was definitely some messaging that came from Joe Lacob in that. But as far as the courtside appearance from JK, Lacob says don't read too much into it. But here is where things get juicy. Lacob saying this, look, it's difficult. You got close to all your players. So yeah, it probably would be difficult to lose someone who has been here for 4 years. He's a part of our organization and a great guy. But this is a business, and we have to do the best thing to build a team. And he's a free agent. He gets to choose. He's restricted, so we have that on our side. But it's business. We just have to see how it goes. Let's see what happens. And for me, it feels like this is the first time that Joe Lacob has even mentioned or alluded to the thought of losing Jonathan Kuminga in free agency this offseason. And look, I don't really think that there is much of a possibility that Kuminga ends up just straight up signing an offer sheet and the Warriors do not match because, one, there aren't a lot of teams in this league that have the room to sign Kuminga to a big offer sheet like that. And two, Joe Lacob probably just doesn't want to give Kuminga up for all that much. And here's what he had to say after that initial quote. He said, "It would take a lot for me not to match, for us not to match. But again, we have to look at what makes our team best, and that's really up to Mike Dunleavy to make those decisions and to recommend ownership what to do. It's going to play out pretty soon. You won't have to wait too much longer." And I think this is really the juicy quote from Joe Lacob. There's a couple of things to unpack with what he said. One, he said, firstly, for me to match. Interesting. Obviously, it's Joe Lacob's money that's being thrown around there in free agency. So naturally, I guess it makes sense that he said that. But then he quickly corrected himself and said, the decision is up to Mike Dunleavy to recommend what ownership should sign off on with the final signature. So how involved is Joe Lacob going to be in the decision-making process on whether or not to keep Jonathan Kuminga this offseason? That's a big question for Warriors fans because think about a couple of years ago when Joe Lacob it was a very big proponent of James Wiseman in Golden State. They ended up trading him away, and Lacob wasn't really in the decision-making process there, as he was a huge fan. I would even say a bigger fan of Wiseman's than he actually is of Kuminga's right now. So that is definitely something of note. When they made that deal for a guy that Lacob loved, they didn't really involve him too much in the decision-making process, or else he might still be in Golden State. And then the second thing we have to unpack is it's going to play out very soon. Now, the overwhelming kind of notion from NBA insiders that this offseason is going to be kind of sped up and a lot of things are going to happen before the draft. But With Kuminga, he's a free agent, and that does not open until June 30th. So there isn't going to be much 2025 draft capital going around in any potential Jonathan Kuminga sign-in trade. So that obviously, honestly, limits a lot as well, as this is a very talented draft, and a lot of teams are going to want guys in that first round. But at the end of the day, it seems like the most likely outcome for the Warriors is that Kuminga does come back in free agency this offseason. And Bobby Marks of ESPN put out a contract projection a couple of days ago that is as follows: 3 years, $81 million, and it is a 2+1 deal. So it'll be a player option in that third season. So if Kuminga outplays or underplays his contract value, then there will be an out in that third year, whether it's for him there at that player option spot. And look, I get it. I understand that the likelihood is pretty high that Kuminga ends up coming back. But for those of you who aren't exactly huge fans of them like myself, that doesn't mean that he's going to be a part of the team long term. Remember what Monty Poole said on the Dubs Talk Live podcast a couple of days ago? He said it doesn't mean that he's going to be a long-term answer if they do re-sign him, that they just potentially move him later. Because what seems pretty clear in talking to people, that even people who are JK backers within the organization don't see him a guy that's going to lead them to championships. So there isn't a ton of faith in Kuminga to kind of carry the mantle into the next era of Warriors basketball past Curry, Draymond, and Jimmy Butler now. So they could look to trade him down the line, and I get the understanding of that, because you want to get 100% of the value back when you're trading a player away. Like in this specific instance with Kuminga, they can't do that. If they do a sign and trade with him as a restricted free agent, they can only take back 50% of the new contract value in the first year that he gets from a new team. So say he gets $25 million from somebody, Golden State can only take back $12.5 million in contract value there. So I get it. If you trade him down the line come next season before the trade deadline, maybe in December when he becomes eligible, you get whatever contract amount that you kind of sign him to this offseason. So if it's $27 million, you can go out there and get a $27 million player. But honestly, even if you end up getting lesser value this offseason in a sign and trade, or I guess at least a lesser contract value, I would rather make that move than go into next season with more dysfunction, more uncertainty around Jonathan Kuminga's role. Yeah, Steve Kerr said that he would be a featured player more often, and he would incorporate him into lineups next to Jimmy Butler and next to Draymond Green early on and often in the season. But look, Steve Kerr's word in May and June is not the Bible when it comes to what's going to happen in October. So there is absolutely still uncertainty within Jonathan Kuminga's role, even if he gets a contract extension. So I'm kind of out on that, being the case this offseason. I would much, much rather have the team that you're going to head into in October be the team that you're going to head into the NBA playoffs with come April and May. So as far as the Kuminga sign and trade goes, we do have a couple of teams that have some reported interest. Now, one maybe a little bit more than the other, as the Miami Heat are incredibly focused on going out there and trading for Kevin Durant right now. But a report came out that Kuminga is viewed as a fallback option for Miami. So kind of fingers crossed that KD doesn't end up in the Bay Area, so we have another option, another competitor for a trade offer for Kuminga. Also, the Chicago Bulls, who we've kind of been theorizing at least, or assuming would be a team of interest in the Kuminga kind of sweepstakes this summer. There's a bunch of players on their books that would fit in to a Warriors sign and trade here, or Golden State could potentially include more than just Kuminga in a trade package. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But first, get hooked up with this fresh deal that you see in the link at the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/Curry City. You can get last year's, yeah, I know, it's last year's jersey, but this thing is fresh and it's 50% off. How often do you see a Steph Curry jersey half off in the middle of the summer? Yeah, not too often. So go take advantage of this awesome deal and click this link that's in the comment section and description of today's video, chatsports.com/Curry City. Get hooked up with a Curry City jersey today. All right, this came out, and I want to very much preface with, I don't know how reliable all these guys are, and I'm also not so sure how groundbreaking of a report this is anyway. But from Pasha here, saying that the Golden State Warriors have internally discussed packaging Moses Moody in sign and trade scenarios with Jonathan Kuminga, sources tell me, and Rob Murrows, who runs the collective and social media reporting kind of page, Ball Report X on Twitter, and they're kind of new. They've been reporting on Golden State stuff mostly, but now they're trying to take it kind of league-wide. Again, I'm not so sure how reliable these guys are, but I don't think it's necessarily groundbreaking information that is 100% untrue. It would make sense that Golden State would think about including Moses Moody in a Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade because you can get a better player back for those two contracts combined. Moses Moody next season in the first year of his contract extension makes $11.5 million. So if you add that into a Kuminga sign and trade package, you're looking at, maybe a $20 to $25 million player now that you can get back in a trade this offseason. And look, I get it. You're not going to be able to see out Moses Moody's extension for even just the first year if you end up dealing him. And I'm not so sure that that's what Golden State wants to do, as he was a solid contributor, especially in that last home stretch of the regular season, where after they acquired Jimmy and he was a regular starter, Golden State was like 12-0 for their first 12 games with Moody in the starting lineup. So maybe they don't want to get rid of him. But if there's a player who they really think that they can become better with by including Moody in a Kuminga sign and trade, then I don't think that Mike Dunleavy is going to hesitate to do so, as he has said openly that they are willing to do whatever it takes to complete a trade as long as they believe it makes their team better. So with that being said, comment your number one realistic. I'm talking realistic. Do not comment Giannis Antetokounmpo. Do not comment that the Warriors need to trade for Giannis, because it's not happening at this point. So comment your number one realistic Warriors trade target that would likely have to go in a Kuminga sign and trade, and could be coupled with some more contracts on the Warriors books as well. But you let me know who that target is in the comment section. All right, before we wrap up here on today's show, I wanted to just highlight this small quote from Bobby Portis, who isn't a Warriors trade target per se, but is potentially a Warriors free agency target around that non-taxpayer mid-level exception, according to reports that we heard from Jake Fisher a little bit last week. Bobby Portis was on FanDuel TV, and he said this about the rumors with Golden State. He said, "My first thought when it comes to these reports is, how do these people know so much?" And honestly, I don't really get that either, because it's all like scuttlebutt and nonsense going around right now. Nobody really has anything concrete when it comes to these off-season rumor mills. So Bobby Portis, I totally understand what you're saying there. However, throughout the rest of that little interview that he was on, he did not deny these Warriors free agency rumors. He did not say, yeah, I'm not really interested in that place. They're not really interested in me. Like, he made no comment like that whatsoever. So I 100% believe that the Warriors will look to add a player at that non-taxpayer mid-level exception this offseason. I think there's a pretty decent crop of guys who fit that bill. I think Portis is one of them. And
trade to a different draft, go get a player, everything in between. Well, we're a week away from knowing. The draft is literally 8 days from now when this is recording. June 17th. Draft is June 25th. OKC up 3-2 on the Pacers. Looks like they're going to win, with Halliburton being hurt. What a bummer to see. However, it's been a fun finals to watch. Now, our offseason really starts at the draft, and then we have free agency needs, trades, everything between. So in this episode of Warriors Digest, what are we doing? We're breaking down the Warriors offseason needs in total. Per ESPN, they just came out with a nice report. We're going to go through it. Randy Silver, Arthur, giving you the news on Warriors Digest. Thank you so much, folks, for being here. I'm glad you guys liked the dual episode. We'll do more of that. Whoever we draft, if we draft, we'll do a breakdown together, and we'll do free agency stuff. So I like that you guys like us combining the minds together. We'll definitely get more in the works. He's got a young family. I'm a sports reporter out here in Lincoln. Go Huskers, go Big Red. So just making sure our schedules work to record. We'll get it done for you. We do it for the fans. So before we dive into it, these are the dates you need to know, folks. And please like and subscribe to Warriors Digest so you don't miss anything. So we're right here. We're at the NBA Finals, blah, blah, blah. June 25th, NBA Draft. June 26th, NBA Draft. Of course, 41st pick means we're in the second round, so we won't be drafting on the first day unless they go up and make a trade in. June 30th, let me zoom in a little bit for you. June 30th, each NBA team may begin negotiating with all other upcoming free agents. If you remember, they used to call this the tampering period, where deals would happen under the table, handshake agreements. You weren't supposed to talk about. Now it's legal tampering. So June 30th is when you can start talking. We'll know about Kuminga, I would assume, relatively quickly. If that doesn't work out, then they would go for other players. June 5th to 6th and the 8th, California Classic Summer League at Chase Center in San Francisco. Warriors will be in it. We'll cover those games. It will be the G League players from this year and the rookies that they may be getting, undrafted free agents. Maybe they have Quinton Post play. I don't think so. Other than that, I wouldn't expect anybody from the main team. Maybe Braxton Keys, if he's still there. Let me pull it up really quick. If you look who may be there, Teron Armstrong should be there. I don't think, maybe they have Rowe there because of what he did last year in the Summer League. Key, I think, would be there. Other than that, I don't expect anybody else to be there. Then, of course, you have the other Summer League in Salt Lake City. July 6th, free agency period, 12:01 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to hopefully be able to go live on YouTube for that in real time. What are the Warriors doing? What comes out, as we did last year when it came due to Klay Thompson. That was fun. Obviously, he left. Then you have the Summer League. It doesn't say here summer. Oh, it does right there. Summer League, July 10th to 20th. We'll break down all those games for you. Keep you updated on how the Warriors are doing. Preseason, October, and then you're back in the season again. So these are the dates you have to know about. If you want to understand who we may get in the draft, if you haven't seen these videos, on our channel is a 2025 NBA Draft All, where the prospects we know have come into the Warriors, broken them down, who they are, where they come from, what have they done. Want to make sure you've seen this if you haven't. Right here, this is big. I think this is still the best target. Will he be there at 41? It is unknown. Oops, I don't want this to play. Please don't play. Great. But Hansen Young out of China. Big center is the type of body I
Folks,
think we need.
let me ask you a question. Who should the Warriors pick in the upcoming draft?
We have Inception. Randy on Randy. Okay. So then you got some sharpshooters in here. So if you haven't seen this yet, go ahead and take a look at these videos. I'll give you an idea who the Warriors have been bringing in. And that takes you to their offseason. Again, number 41 pick via the trade for Jimmy Butler. Free agents, we've broken this down a little bit, a lot of it. Kuminga's restricted. GP2, we talked about potentially coming in on a team-friendly deal, $3 to $5 million. I saw the comments, people saying, you know what? I don't want GP2. I think that money is better used elsewhere. The intangibles he brings in the locker room may be too much to pass up. For $3 to $5 million, he can win you a game. He can win you games with his defense, with his shooting. Is he the same player he was 4 or 5 years ago? No, but he's someone to have around the team that makes you better. For $3 to $5 million, I'm good. Above that, maybe not. Looney, I think, is probably on the out. They need a center who can really be a bigger guy. He's good, but he's undersized. He can't shoot. So I think you need somebody who can do better than that. Knox was a great find in the Summer League last year. He did well when he got his spot moments. I think he goes somewhere else and gets playing time. Santos, I think he'll stay. Was a nice part of the Warriors towards the end of the season when he played in the winter when people got hurt. Spencer, backup point guard, restricted. I think they keep him. Post, they're going to tenure him. Obviously, he was a rookie last year, one-on-one deal. Braxton Key, I don't know if he comes back. And Armstrong, they signed midseason. He'll be coming back. So, per ESPN, again, what we talked about, failed to get out of the second round, especially without Curry. We saw what happened. Lost 4 in a row. But with Curry, with Butler, with Green, you look at the first 30 games, 40 games of the season pre the Butler trade. We were a 21 team. We started 12-3 and looked crappy, dejected, sad. He brought energy. He brought pace. He brought hype. He brought hope. He brought wins to the team. After the All-Star break, we were good. Moved up from just being a playing team to an a playoff team. However, we didn't do well in the playoffs. We beat Houston, but then against Minnesota without Curry. The starting lineup of Curry, Podziemski, Moody, Butler, and Green went 16-3 in the regular season with a plus-minus 17.9 per 100 possessions. Again, one of the best plus-minuses of any team in the NBA once we got Butler, one of the best records. However, I just don't think Podziemski is a starter next to Curry. He needs to be your backup. But Moody was a nice player, did not do well in the playoffs. Podziemski, 2 surgeries this offseason. Moody 1. Something to be aware of. They should be fine for training camp. The first round loss against Houston and them losing Curry exposed the need for a consistent third scorer. Butler, he kind of faded in the playoffs again. He fell on his lower back. How much was that affecting him? He didn't let people know. Draymond's not going to be your prototypical third scorer, so they need somebody. You look at OKC. They have 4 or 5 scorers. You look at the Pacers. They kind of got 2, 3. You need scorers. To address this, they expect Golden State to be active in free agency and the trade market. Again, that's why we've been talking about potential 3 and D wingers coming in, power forwards who can potentially shoot. We talked about Bobby Portis, Naz Reid. You saw KCP getting traded from Orlando to Memphis for Bane. Do they maybe cut KCP? Probably not. His contract is way too big. The Warriors did not have their own first-round pick in June, but do have 4 firsts available to move in future trades if they want to. So maybe they package something for Kuminga to go get a three-point shooter. We talked about Johnson from Brooklyn a bunch. It would be great to have him. Would they take Kuminga? I think they would. The obstacle comes without cobbling together enough salary to make a substantial trade without including Green. The Warriors roster is top-heavy in salary with Curry, Butler, and Green comprising 85% of the payroll. And folks, this goes back to right here. Whenever you guys say, oh, trade this player for this player, I say you have to make it realistic. You have to make it work. You're like, why do we not include BP or do BP and Moody? Because if you want to get a $20, $30 million player, you look at Podziemski's salary, $3 million. Moody's now is 12, puts you at $15 million. You're not going to make the money work because of salary cap restrictions. You have to, where the Warriors are at, the money has to be even. That's why Draymond would have to be included in any trade, which I do. And the Warriors really aren't trading Draymond, especially after being a top 3 defensive player this year. But the biggest need, of course, we know is Kuminga. A restricted free agent plays a role in how much flexibility the Warriors have this offseason. Without him on the roster, Golden State is $17.5 million below the luxury tax. They are $25 million and $37 million below both aprons. They are allowed to use their $14.1 million non-tax mid-level exception, but would not be allowed to exceed the first apron once the roster is filled out. So again, you look right here, we go back. This is why I have this for you. You can see right now total salary $170 million. First apron, $24 million away. Second apron, $36 million. They're $16 million below the cap space. If Kuminga is getting $20 to $30 million a year, again, we had that report coming out. I know Arthur did that video. Well, $20 to $30 million a year puts you basically at the first apron. So how are you going to fill out the rest of your roster? It's tough. Maybe they think they can win top heavy. I don't know. But that's why, again, Kuminga is the domino that falls for the rest of the Warriors offseason. Top front office priority. The Butler trade cracked open the window to compete for a championship. Not if OKC looks like this. Whew. Minnesota looks like this. You think Dallas will be better with Kyrie back if he can come back, hopefully. San Antonio is going to be much better. Who knows about Phoenix? Denver, you think, comes back with a vengeance. Lakers. West is tough. The exciting thing is Jimmy gives us the opportunity to extend this thing by a couple years, Steve Kerr said in April. Kuminga started 56 games, but again, he does not think he's a good fit around Jimmy, Jonathan, Draymond together, but Kerr did say this offseason, next year, if they are together, he'll play much more to get them together. The Warriors were minus 28 per 100 possessions when Kuminga, Butler, and Green were on the court together. That is not good. Not good. The Warriors are expected to tender him at $8 million one-year offer, as you should. Some other team will give him much more. It's up to the Warriors to decide, will they match it or not? What happens could be a waiting game, with Brooklyn as the only team that can offer a starting salary of $20 million or more. And again, Golden State can match. So, sign trade, Johnson, hopefully. Extension candidates to watch, Draymond Green. Green signed a 4-year contract in 2023, is now eligible to tack on additional years, 2 years, to his contract. Green will be 37 in the second year of that extension when contracts with Curry and Butler expire. So again, you go right here. We'll give you the visual graphic. You see Draymond Green, number 3. He's going into the final year of his deal, $25 million.
One of the Golden State Warriors' biggest foes has executed the first blockbuster trade of the offseason, with the Memphis Grizzlies sensationally sending Desmond Bane out east to the rising Orlando Magic. As first reported by ESPN's Shams Charania on Sunday, the Magic have paid a heavy price to acquire the 26-year-old Bane for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, 4 unprotected first-round picks, and 1 first-round pick swap. While people can argue for weeks and months on who won the trade, there's a prevailing thought that comes to mind when it comes to the Warriors. Could this open the window for them to make a dream addition in the form of Jaren Jackson Jr.? There's already been some speculation on Jackson's future this offseason given he's extension eligible and has just 1 year left on his contract, yet that could now only intensify further in the wake of the Bane trade, with Ja Morant's future in Memphis also set to create headlines. Reporting in the wake of the Bane trade, NBA insider Mark Stein laid out the intrigue now surrounding Morant and Jackson that will potentially reverberate around the league in the coming days and weeks. Is Memphis still as committed to its star god and Jaren Jackson Jr. as it once seemed? Do the Grizzlies suddenly have interest in a rebuild or a retooling? These are questions bouncing around 29 other front offices as we speak, even though a renegotiation and extension of Jackson's contract has long been viewed as the Grizzlies' top offseason priority, Stein wrote on Sunday. So while it may remain likely that Jackson signs an extension with the Grizzlies, there is the possibility for the Warriors to at the very least explore what is going on in Memphis right now and whether they can capitalize on the situation. And you, fan, what do you think about Jaren Jackson Jr.'s situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.